Hi everyone, welcome back to Simplify. Today's video is going to be about my perspective. I'm starting a new segment. It's going to be called Simplify Perspectives. And in these videos, I will pick a particular issue that's either in the news or is somewhat controversial in the financial space, and we're going to talk about it. I'm simply going to offer some of my thoughts. This is going to be a discussion-oriented video versus some of my other videos that have more to do with offering tips, tricks, and advice around the financial independence space. So if you're interested in hearing my opinion or just listening to a perspective on a particular issue, go ahead and subscribe to the channel. If you all like these videos, I'll of course include them more regularly. I'm just introducing the idea today, so let's jump in and see how it goes. Now, before we get on to the content, I'm going to ask you to please subscribe to the channel. If you like the content, go ahead and like the video and leave a comment below. These things really do help me. I know you hear it from all of the different YouTube creators and you're tired of hearing it. It doesn't cost you anything and it really helps me out. So go ahead, subscribe to the channel, and like the video. Now that we have all the introductions out of the way, let's go ahead and jump into today's topic. The topic is online gambling. Now, many of you have probably seen a previous video I did back in August, and that video talked about fantasy sports, fantasy football, and gambling. And it offered some guidance on how to do that safely and securely and to maximize your fun. In today's video, we're going to be talking about the industry as a whole. Online gambling has grown significantly over the last decade. I know it's now rivaling, if not beating in many cases, a lot of the casinos that exist in Las Vegas, Nevada, and around the country. I think a lot of that has to do with the convenience that technology offers. You can easily just get on your phone, place a quick bet on your favorite sports team or event. But is it really that bad? As a society, is this a bad thing for us to be pursuing? In the United States alone, this is a significant industry. Tons of money comes in every year through gambling. And I would argue that gambling inherently is not a bad thing. We derive a lot of benefits from the process of gambling. We can get excited about our favorite team. We can watch that team play. We can get behind them and root for them. It creates an element of suspense that we may not have normally in our day-to-day lives. It provides endorphins and excitement around a thing that you're betting on, that you feel passionate about. I don't think that inherently is a bad thing. In my life, I have always been anti-gambling, anti-casinos. With the onset of online gambling, and sports betting in particular, I find myself very excited about gambling. When I gamble online for sports, I have a very strict set of rules that I follow. But I understand not everyone has these same rules. And so gambling can become really dangerous for these individuals. So I think the question that we're really interested in talking about today is whether or not gambling is a bad thing. Statistics have shown that there's a very large and increasing audience that's primarily male and is primarily focused around sports betting markets. You might compare this to buying lottery tickets over the past number of decades. This has been a predominantly lower income endeavor. People who are seeking that big payday, that big win, will go out and randomly put a certain amount of money on a number of lottery tickets. I'm sure you've all heard it before, but your odds of winning the lottery are so slim that it's really not even worth participating. Now, you might be that one person out of millions and millions who are buying tickets each year, but you probably won't be that person. And so many people argue that you should be spending your time doing other things. And I'm no different. I would argue for any individual who's trying to better themselves and better their lives, there are much better ways to spend your time and effort. One thing to do would be to invest in yourself. Buy some sort of course that will develop a skill or a capability. Then you can utilize that skill or capability to increase your earning potential and therefore become more financially independent. I think this is a much more reliable method of actually achieving some level of financial success and independence. That said, is there also not a place for the experience of gambling? And in my view, this has become more of an event. This is like going to the theater, for instance. We used to go see movies a lot in theaters. I know that's mostly a pastime. It's still happening, but most of us are streaming those movies now from home. I would say that watching your team play a game and taking out a couple of bets on the score or your favorite players is very similar. You might cap yourself at $20, and of course you put the money on either who you think is going to win or the team that you want to win, and then it amplifies your experience. Now, this is not a get-rich-quick scheme. I, every year, have a very limited budget that I put towards this to enhance my entertainment. I categorize the expense as entertainment, and I know exactly what my limit is every year. So I never lose any more than that limit. Some years I come out ahead, but I can tell you that it takes a lot of time and effort to come out ahead. And I usually don't want to spend the time researching the teams, researching the players, and trying to figure out a slight edge. And by slight, I mean that you might have a 60% chance of success at a very good bet versus a 49 or 51% chance. That's it. This is still gambling, and the odds are stacked against you, especially in sporting events with very unique players coming together in unique circumstances, unique weather events, and different dynamics, different coaching decisions, different points in the season, and different reasons to be playing with different styles. And so we can rely certainly on statistics and odds, but by no means are these things providing us a significant edge. Definitely not an edge over just putting in some hard work to develop a skill or capability to earn that same money. So let's turn it back to this idea of gambling. Is it bad? Well, it's bringing in a significant amount of capital. You might argue that capitalism is fueling one or two companies. I think in the online gambling space, we have FanDuel and DraftKings as examples. These are behemoths, and they've started to incorporate all sorts of new types of gambling. This is perhaps scary, but there are competitors that are developing, and I think the more important question is there anything that we can do to prevent those who are prone to having an addiction around gambling to become more aware of their behavior and to curb that behavior before it becomes problematic. Gambling and addictive gambling has been around for a very, very long time. What's happening now is that access to online gambling has made it so much easier for people to place bets. No longer do you have to go to your bookie and throw a bet on something behind the curtains. You can do this on your phone from your couch. There's a very low barrier to entry to place a bet. Now, in many states, it's still illegal, but most states are starting to allow certain types of sports gambling, and this is becoming much and much more prevalent around the country. I would say that the trend will continue, and as states start to realize the benefits of taxing the capital gains that people are making and other ways of increasing their revenue stream, that online gambling will continue. I don't think the answer is to ban gambling. I understand that there are a subset of people who do struggle tremendously, but as I mentioned before, those people were still prone to this behavior, this addictive behavior, and if they sought it out, could easily find a different form of gambling. It just took a bit more work. By making it easier, the access now is to a much wider audience. There are people such as myself who never before would have gambled. I never would have gone to a location to place bets on my favorite NFL team. It just wouldn't have happened. But because I can do it from my couch, and because I can offer such a low amount in terms of a bet, it simply is too easy. And I have to make the decision about what is comfortable, about what is okay for me to win or lose in a given year or week. But I can live with that decision. So there are lots of issues that conflate around gambling, and I think that we would be wise as a society to direct our attention more on knowledge and awareness, making sure that the people who are prone to gambling, and frankly anyone who's able to gamble, has the knowledge and awareness about the odds, about how gambling works, and about their likelihood of success. And then offering tools that can actually get them to the place that they want to be. If the goal is to have a successful job, to make enough money to provide for their families, there are other ways to promote that type of behavior. And in that case, definitely providing that education is what we should be focusing on. Now, for all others who simply want to enjoy a Saturday afternoon betting on their favorite college football team, I see no problem with this behavior. And I think as a society that has to flourish on capitalist principles, this is a behavior that we should embrace and we should allow to continue at some level. And by no means have I covered all of the issues here with online gambling. There are certain cases where some very bad things have happened to individuals losing their life savings, and perhaps they weren't aware of the stakes when they jumped in, or maybe they were and they just kept losing and thought they could regain some of that loss by continuing down that rabbit hole. There are all sorts of examples that are negative, but I think that the way around that is definitely not by banning a certain activity. We could easily make a comparison here to alcohol. Alcohol is one of the worst things that you can put into your body, yet the majority of us decide willingly to drink. Also, the majority of us do not have a problem with alcohol. We don't become alcoholics. We're not prone to that behavior. We may drink more during certain formative years and then taper off as we get older or responsibilities increase. Yes, there is a subset of people who do fall down a very dark hole here. They become addicted to alcohol and they have a very hard time recovering for the rest of their lives. But if alcohol was not there, there would likely be some other substance that that individual sought out. But if we go back to the days of abolition, when alcohol was not being offered legally, what happened? Well, people started to create their own underground channels. This is exactly what happens with gambling. Gambling has been happening for a very, very long time. Very high stakes gambling, in fact. What online gambling and technology has enabled is simply access to that gambling. And a lot of people like you and like me who just work regular jobs now can enjoy that action without losing tremendous amounts of money and without super difficult barriers to jump through. There also are great benefits here from a jobs perspective, from a tax perspective, from just a general capital revenue development perspective. All of this money is recircled into our economy and helps us in the long run versus driving this behavior underground when these activities are illegal. Then a lot of that money is still changing hands, but it's doing so in a way that only benefits a very small amount of people. Now, as gambling is becoming more legalized, this wealth is spread to a much greater extent. It's still concentrated within certain companies, but those companies have jobs, they pay people, and they also pay taxes. And so there are some benefits here to offering these activities legally. If you all are interested, The Economist is a publication that unfortunately is behind a paywall, but just released a very interesting article on gambling in America and offers some really interesting statistics. And they also make an argument for this being a good thing for our society. I encourage you to take a look if you have access to that publication. I would include some of those details here if I had the ability to do so, but because it is behind a paywall, I'm just speaking with you today and sharing some of my thoughts. So I hope you share some of your thoughts about online gambling. How has this affected you? Are you someone who enjoys this, or are you someone who completely hates it and thinks we should be getting rid of gambling? I'd love to hear your thoughts, and I'd love to hear your thoughts on this new segment where I go through some of my personal beliefs and opinions on a particular issue. I'll look forward to offering another perspectives video in the next couple of months, and I'll look forward to your feedback. I hope you have a great day, and we'll see you in the next video. Take care.